Hello, Gabriel here. We are still analyzing the survey results. This time we will be interpreting the results using the automated report. So the report was actually a new feature that we added when we noticed that people had a hard time interpreting the results only with the dashboard, because the dashboard, you can like explore the data in all directions. And what we felt is that people needed a kind of narrative to keep track of what was going on or to guide their reflection. More importantly, when it came to having a group discussion about what the results mean, people didn't know where to start. So we designed this report to be used during the team discussions. And so you can use it to prepare for the team discussion. What we're doing is we are framing the discussion in the logical order following self-determination theory. And it's a theory because it tells you where there can be causes that lead to specific effects. So a theory is a series of causalities that appear often. And so that will guide you in finding causality when you see things that move together. So one thing increases, something else increases, well, there might be a causality. Now, it could be a correlation, but because we're based on self-determination theory, we can sort of make the assumption that there might be a causal link between these two things. So I don't expect you to be able to see, to read this report. I'm presenting it this way because I want you to see how it's structured. First, the conversation starts around the motivational outcomes. So we start with the effects, and we start with emotional well-being. In other words, we start by asking, how are you? How are we? How are we doing right now? So imagine you're having a conversation with your team. You're all together in a room. The polite thing to do, the usual thing to do, is to have a check-in. How are we doing? How's everybody doing around the table? And this is important because you want the facilitator to know the emotional state of the participants in the meeting. So as people say, oh, I'm okay, or I'm a little tired, or I'm not so well, there might be tensions. There might be reasons to be careful. If everybody looks relaxed and says, "Oh, I'm fine, it's wonderful," et cetera, then okay, that will set the tone. So it's important to start with how we're feeling, and then to move on from there on discussing the results in terms of engagement and satisfaction. So we have a score of 4 in fulfillment. What does that mean? And people can sort of open up and sort of explain what fulfills them, for example. And then you from there you move on to the basic psychological needs. So we know that there's a causality here. According to self-determination theory, if the needs for autonomy, belonging, and competence are met, then the motivational outcomes are more likely to be positive. On the contrary, if one of the 3 needs is not met, then you might have issues with, say, well-being or dissatisfaction. The next step is to look at the leadership skills of the supervisor: listening, understanding, encouraging, because we know that these 3 leadership skills affect the sense of autonomy, the sense of belongingness, and the sense of competence of the team members. And then last but not least, what we call management, and that's the whole organizational culture, its processes, its mechanisms, how people are evaluated, how people are rewarded, the types of incentives that people receive, the status that the organization provides. All of these things also affect the sense of competence and especially a sense of belongingness in the organization and therefore in the team, but also a sense of autonomy. I mean, If you have a corporate culture and lots of compliance mechanisms where everything's very much controlled, that will certainly have an effect on people's sense of autonomy. So that concludes this very short presentation of the team report. Have a look at it and try to tell yourself the story about your team before you engage in a conversation with the team members. It's a way of rehearsing, what might actually happen or what might emerge in the team meeting. It's also a place where you can reflect personally about how you feel in the team as the supervisor or as the member of a team. So the next video will be about how we can use the filter to compare genders and age groups. See you then.